We have everyone in attendance. We've got a quorum. First order of business is to accept minutes of the August 30th regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Next up is visitor comments and petitions. We have a couple people online. Is there anybody here for anything that is not on the agenda? Perfect. Next up is the ferry service update. We also have a winter ferry schedule discussion under new business. Is there anything under for updates, or would anyone entertain a motion to take them both together?
So second.
In favor? Aye. John?
Thank you. Thanks, folks. I came tonight because Bill Geary, the new executive director, had touched base with me because I had been questioning him as to what the upcoming schedule change, if any, would be. Just by way of history, everyone knows this, I think, is in the last year, I had been attempting to have Mr. Geary's predecessor, Mark Higgins, move the historic date that we booked 9 trips a day to 7 trips a day from October in sometime in November. I was thinking the second or third week of November, and that was based upon kind of a perceived chaos back in the fall of 2021, and we kicked from 9 to 7 trips a day in the middle of October, and the demand was outpacing the service. I think at least that was most people's perception. And instead, what Mark did was simply say, well, we'll just keep 9 trips a day for the entire year. And I got some congratulatory emails about that, even though I had nothing to do with it. And I think my perception was that some of the users thought that was pretty nice. I also think that some of the crew was not all that thrilled about it, which I think everybody knows. But so that's what we did. And then I had talked to Mr. Geary a couple months ago about what he was planning, and I don't think he was planning anything at the time. And the last email I got from him was that he was thinking of going back to 7 trips a day. What was our response to that? And I said, well, I'm going to have to talk to you folks because I'm just the rep. I'm not the person who makes that policy. Since then, I've done, well, Melissa sent me a copy of a letter that I presume all you folks have seen from the school department.
I haven't. I only sent it to you.
Oh, you only sent it to me?
Yep, I was trying to get it back in because I wasn't sure when the deadline was.
Oh,
And so-
okay. Well, and anyway, the school, Melissa has a letter from school, basically.
This year.
From Kate, basically saying the school would prefer to have a full schedule throughout the winter because it makes it a lot easier for them. I got traffic report from July of 2022 through this past July. And this is total people. So that's people in cars and people walking on the boat, I believe. This comes from Rocket Reservation, which is a new outfit that the ferry service uses. And there's a suspicious disparity between the amount of tickets or the amount of people getting clicked or however they do it on Islesboro versus the amount being clicked on over in Lincolnville, with more seem to be moving out of Islesboro, and I don't know why that is, but so I have some suspicions of the actual accuracy of these numbers. But I tend to think probably
No.
Yeah, I hope it isn't. But I tend to think that they do probably reflect the amount of traffic with which we're dealing. And as you can see, you know, obviously in the summer months, we're running, anywhere between 21 and 24,000 a month. And it drops off precipitously, come November. Keep in mind, these are a blend though, so, but anyway, it goes down to 13,000 November, 13,000 December, 11 January, and lowest is February, 10,000, and then it starts to pick up again. And so they're asking us for some input. I'm happy to pass along whatever you'd like. I think that the variables, you know, the crew is paid the crew is paid the same amount of money, whether or not they're running 7 boats, 7 round trips a day, 9 round trips a day. So, cost wise, I think what you're really looking at is just diesel. And maybe some sundries, but so, you know, I can tell them nothing, but I can tell them we really think it's important to keep a full schedule. I can tell them if the backup, I think, would be if you are going to reduce it, please don't reduce it in October. And maybe, you know, don't do it until mid to late November, and then, you know, put it back up maybe at the end of March or something, based on what this shows, but I don't know. So I'll leave it for you folks. You can tell me that you want me to get back in touch with Mr. Gary in 2 weeks at your next meeting, or you can talk about it tonight, or whatever you'd like.
I mean, I'm happy to talk about it briefly tonight, and we can decide if there's more things that we need to talk about. I mean, my sort of first impression is it makes sense to me that the school would want to maintain the current schedule. And, you know, I think from a community perspective and what we heard last summer, the more service that we receive from the Maine State Ferry Service, the better, recognizing that there is a cost, and we trust that they are running the numbers to do so as efficiently as possible. But we also did hear from crew that were unhappy with the schedule. And again, I feel like that's a Maine State Ferry Service issue. I know that it's hard to find employees, and it is a balancing act to understand, you know, for them to work with their staff to understand what are the trade-offs and benefits that they feel like is their best way of retaining people. And I think they have to make that decision. That's my personal feeling about it. Although I think, you know, looking at the numbers, waiting until November, if they were going to make a change, makes a lot of sense based on the numbers. But that's kind of my first impression.
Would you remind me, what was the concern of the ferry crew? They wanted fewer runs because they don't have enough time to get warm, is basically one of the pieces.
That's the one that I remember.
Yeah, so.
I think they found it more difficult in the winter months because they're outside more in inclement weather.
Yeah.
And right, they don't have a chance to warm up in the 12 or 13 minutes it takes to get across the bay.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
What would be the impact on revenue if they went from 9 to 7? Did they ever look at anything like that?
No one's ever done a sophisticated analysis of that, and I think it's virtually impossible to do it really. One thing I would have liked to have done is the reason given last year to stay at 9 trips a day was an increase in truck traffic, but I don't have enough good 2021 data to compare that with.
And we don't know, there's no way to know whether we're gonna have an increase or stay the same amount of truck traffic That's not something we can predict.
A lot of building going on still.
There is a lot of building in, there will be the Up Island Public Safety Garage and the health center. That's gonna be happening, but I don't understand how that timing and how many, I'm sure at one point there'll be cement trucks coming over and fill trucks coming over, but it's probably not gonna last the whole winter. So I don't know how that all falls out.
Well, in the wintertime though, they use that time to start stocking up for the summer months. So
Yeah,
they bring their
yeah.
trucks over in the winter
Yeah,
and then go back to their piles or their quarries.
Yeah, and I hope to have some trucks that'll be working on East Shore Drive.
Well, that's
That would be a lot of loads. But
so is there a compromise that would allow for us to keep closer to summer schedule, but allow more warm-up time for the crew? Is there any sweet spot in there that we haven't looked at? Not remembering exactly what the schedule's looking
The
like.
only one that comes immediately to my mind is to say, instead of knocking it back to 7, knock it back to 8. I think from a user's perspective, when you go to 7, you've got a hole in your morning and you got a hole in your afternoon. So you have ample opportunity to wait 2 hours in the morning and or the afternoon, which a lot of people don't care for. So that to me would be a semi-compromise. Another compromise would be to shorten the length of time if they do it, that it's done compared to what they've done in the past.
That might be a compromise position that how would that work with the school? If it was 7 instead of, what did you say, 8? instead of
The normal is 9, so, and the normal winter is 7, and you could say, well, how about 8?
Yeah,
One of the big things that was in the school letter was we were asking for Monday through Friday. Saturdays, if they needed to change the times, Sundays, but just strictly from the concept of Monday through Friday school. That was what the big thing was that if we needed to take times off of Saturday or anything, like the school wouldn't necessarily object to that. But when we have children that are sick or trying to get them back off or school, like we just had on two days ago?
Yesterday.
Everything blends yesterday, when we had to close at 1:30 because we hadn't had water in the school for over an hour. If the 1:30 run is gone, then we're still waiting until 3:30 and we have no place for the students. And so it's kind of weird on the emergency things that are one-offs, but it does in fact impact. Would it be possible, so I don't remember, my brain is not functioning with me as well as I want it to today. When we go to the winter schedule, do we still lose that 2:30 run? Because that's when so on Wednesdays, we're down to 6 instead of 7 runs, because they still take that time for the water run or fuel or whatever it is that they're doing.
I think they schedule it so that they'll fuel the boat.
is one of those,
It has one of
Yeah.
those openings, if you will.
Okay,
So you're not gonna lose 2 runs in the afternoon. You're just gonna still lose 1 run in the afternoon.
okay, I couldn't remember previously how they had done it, and so, because that would be a big kick in the teeth, especially to the school or anyone else, and then,
I don't recollect a 2-hour spread at all.
no, I don't either.
So I think we're safe on that.
okay.
But I would, from the school's perspective, is the flexibility more helpful in the morning or the afternoon? I guess because that would be one consideration, and I don't know the answer to that.
And robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think that,
Well, I don't know. I always find that when I finish whatever I'm doing on the mainland, it's 2:15, 2:00. And if there's no 3:00 boat, what do we do now?
right, he was asking in regards to the school.
Oh, I'm
If it-
sorry.
No, you're good. I agree. I've been sitting in that exact same boat too. For emergency, for sick situations or kids that miss the ferry from the mainland or teachers, commuting staff that's coming over, we need to have the morning runs in order to make sure that they can get to school. when you pull from the afternoon, you eliminate the opportunity for them to complete a robust day of school. Because now they're having to leave off of the 12:30 or to 1:30 to get to a sporting event. Majority of our students, 5th through 12th grade, participate in sports. And so that's one of the factors that we're having today is because there's no 2:30 run, they had to leave off of the 1:30. You know, it's nicer. And then we also have the condition that we now dismiss school at 2:30 in order to make sure that everybody can get to their sporting events and different things that they have. But if we're going to take away different runs from that, if we have an early dismissal, how we get kids home. And so it really is Peter and Paul.
So the morning one would be the 10:30? Yeah, so that shouldn't bother the school.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be better to
Yeah, if you had to have one that went
runs
off.
in the
You're just gonna
afternoon.
get here in the morning,
In
you
the
know.
morning, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what we recommend, is that we go from 9 to 8 in the winter and we have that extra boat, that loss of boat in the morning rather than the afternoon.
somebody had, and I don't remember exactly where I heard the information, and so it very well could be wrong. That, and maybe it was before Geary, that they had kicked around doing a 30-minute. They were changing the times. Did anybody else hear this? That they were playing with, thinking about changing the times in order to allow more timing for staff, especially during lunch and extra breaks. But they would change to where mainland came off in the mornings on the hour, and then island went off on the hour in the afternoons. And so, because it,
Oh, that will really goof me up.
yeah, it would be, but when they looked at it, it provided longer breaks for the crews when they were switching. It wasn't as impactful on the water runs, and then it also allowed for the timing of the Coast Guard runs or whatever, like where you have to shut it off for, to be more flexible with EMS. And I don't know if anything ever came of that.
I think you're right. There was some discussion going on at some point in time.
But that didn't continue?
It didn't go
Okay.
anywhere. And I
One
know, it's
problem
probably
at a
because
time.
it's too
Let's do
complicated.
the number of runs. If an effect comes up, we'll deal with it.
Well, if you
Well,
do 7, you do it like
I'm
that.
perfectly happy to say, could you be happy with, 8 instead of 7? With, losing a morning run, with the idea that most people would at least be able to get over here.
Mhm.
And then not, particularly with school getting dismissed at 2:30.
They don't make the 2:30 ferry. They still are on the 3:30 ferry. And so we just get the sports team to the 2:30 ferry.
Right. No, I get it, but, I'm happy to give that a shot. Do you want me to try to limit the time as well? Just mention it as a possibility, or not do it until mid or late November and
December.
fire it back, or beginning of
January.
December and then
Yeah,
fire it back up in March. Is that?
Yeah, when the weather is the harshest and it's the biggest, hazard for the crew, that makes sense.
Okay.
I would almost say December, January, then, leave November and October the way it is, if we could have anything.
Right.
Yeah. Keep in mind, when you look at this, like, the lowest usage is actually February. So you probably want to include that,
Yeah,
Right.
and then maybe talk about March.
how is, I don't have it in front of me, what about November?
November, it goes down to 13.7. So, which is still, reasonably robust. It's more than 11 and 10. The lowest are January and February. And March, actually.
Right.
I mean, I would keep.
I think that's
November,
when people
too.
Right, so
finally.
December, January,
Yeah,
February, that sort of
yeah,
strange quarter.
and that's the colder months too, so that would be more helpful to the crew.
So,
What are you talking about, 7 or 8 at that period?
Huh?
What are you talking about, 7 or 8 runs? in that period, January.
When you get into, December, January, February, then you'd have 7 instead of, no, 8 instead of 9. And the rest of the time, they would have the full 9.
So I'll say, or I'll at least express, limited to December, January, February, and possibly March.
And then we'd like a latte machine.
We need a concession on it.
I mean, at one previous point, I feel like there was a fall schedule. And
There
so
was.
I guess as if they wanted to go, if they felt strongly that they needed to go to 7, maybe, also sort of limiting it and then
Yeah,
8
yeah.
and then 9, I'm just trying to like ask for what we want, but just,
Yeah,
right?
And there was a fall schedule.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fake. I mean,
If they start rolling their eyes.
Right.
okay, well, I'll draft something up and as usual, circulate and then try to get it back to Bill.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
And
Thanks for
that's
doing
all
that,
for
John.
now. I don't have anything else to report.
Nothing about rates. Phil was gonna.
Yeah, nothing about the fairs, yeah.
Nothing yet. We had our say. The other islands primarily said that they were in favor of putting most of the increase. Actually, I think they went with 75, but we said 60 or 75. But anyway, the majority of the increase on the peak season rate, which is good because it's short. And they basically said the same thing as we did. And most of the islands actually argued fairly, I thought, strongly and cogently in favor of a resident rate. Which we did too, or at least I put it out there. And, and I try to make the point that, it's from a revenue perspective, that's not going to turn the meter very much, because you're dealing with 600 people. So, I mean, it would require some work on our part, because we'd have to give people little cards or something, but.
I like playing Debbie Downer tonight, apparently. If they don't change the rate until December, or if they don't change the boat until December, are we going to be stuck on the peak rate
No.
until December?
No, the schedule does not have anything to do with the
With the
tariff.
rates, okay.
Good question.
Is it October 1st?
It's the end of September that we go off peak.
Okay.
One additional question I have, changing subjects a little bit, but we have an email from someone from Maine DOT who's coming at the end of September to talk about options for Lincolnville Ferry. Parking, do you have any additional information or sort of what the format is going to look like for providing that feedback?
I do not, I do know, we were asked to send a letter in support of a federal grant to improve both the Lincolnville and the Grindle Point terminals, and the grant is to the tune of $17.5 million. And I think that's mostly to get the infrastructure in place for the new boat, meaning the electric charging infrastructure. I'm not sure what, I just saw this morning and it sounded to me like it's limited to trying to maximize, well, I don't know how you maximize anything over there in Lincolnville, but how about minimize the problems in Lincolnville such as we can. I will tell you, it's interesting because I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I did talk to Bill Pulver because I've been after them to put a parking ride that would be useful somewhere in the area. And I think a parking ride between here and Camden is nigh on to impossible because of land prices and the way Route 1 is. But heading north toward Belfast, there's actually there's a DOT lot that is 8 miles north of Lincolnville Beach, and it's about a 10-minute drive. And I think a lot of it has to do with how much land they own up there, but I did mention it to Bill, because right now the closest park and ride to Islesboro is in Waldeboro. It's that dirt thing in Waldeboro where everyone backs in and parks and goes to BIW, right? And that's the closest one. It's insane. Nobody's gonna use that. But if we had one, you know, that I think is a legitimate, you know, possibility. I can ask about the other stuff, because anything to improve the parking in Lincolnville, I think is a wonderful idea, but I don't know what they're planning. I doubt there's a garage, you know, a structure.
I wonder if they're thinking about coming to Islesboro.
Well, I think I misread it, because it looks to me like maybe they're just going to Lincolnville, they're not going to Islesboro. I know that Dave Kinney shared a link to the discussion that the Lincolnville Select Board had, and I haven't had a chance to look at that, but, I don't know if it makes,
I could inquire of Bill Geary, and I could just ask. Sometimes it's the right hand, Bill Geary may not know anything about this, because this might just be a total DOT thing. But I could at least inquire. I can ask Bill, and I can copy Bill Culver. And I'll get an answer from one of them.
great. Yeah, I think it would be great for us to give some kind of formal feedback on that too, but it just, from this information so far, it's unclear how we can do that most effectively.
It does say, we understand the towns, plural, may have some ideas for this, so they want us.
Yeah.
To give input.
I mean, I can write her back for him. I don't know if it's kind of.
Well, when I write about the scheduling issues, I can just mention that as well.
Yeah.
I'll probably, I'm sure they will.
Great, and maybe we can talk about that more specifically at our meeting, at our next meeting on the 27th.
Yeah, that's
Before
an
that.
idea.
Okay.
But coming to Lincolnville.
Yeah.
Can you add that as a reminder, then we'll put that on our agenda on the 27th? Thank you.
Senior project manager.
And I was bored, I think it did board you.
So, what specifically?
The Lincolnville parking, ferry, internal parking.
About the new ferry.
Okay. Anything else on ferry?
Not for me.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Happy
Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
I have no, significant sea level rise update tonight.
I have no municipal building project update tonight, except for we do have a meeting next week. Which I encourage anybody who's interested in an update to tune in.
Coming meetings and subcommittee reports, looks like there's a planning board meeting on September 25th.
And there's a planning board workshop next Tuesday, the 19th.
A workshop?
Yeah, a workshop where the ordinance changes for the ADUs and like.
That was on. Yeah, if she wants to correct us.
Jennifer, if you have questions about that.
Any other meetings or subcommittee reports? Town managers report.
Right, as you just mentioned, I received today an email from Dave Kinney, talking about what they're preparing to do for the possible impact of Hurricane Lee. And I've forwarded on to everybody. Did you receive, something came bounced back from your email, so good. No, I didn't get it, I'm glad. All right, and on a separate note, he mentioned that they had this Lincolnville Select Board had a presentation from Mackenzie Kurtzbergen, DOT project manager for the new ferry and terminal upgrades. And there was a link to watch the presentation. So if anybody, I haven't had time to do that.
Yeah, so I guess those are not related, so that would be helpful to understand.
Yeah.
It seems like now we've got 3 different people involved, so it would be helpful to make sure that everyone is kind of.
We need to watch this. I'm gonna watch all this.
You shared that with John too, right? So
Yeah,
that he-
John and Gabe,
Okay, great.
because they're on the.
Yeah.
You have minutes from the Lighthouse Restoration Committee meeting of August 24th. And I've also got in here, Ken Smith sent me a picture, which after years of trying to get Brothers in Arms, they're actually, and you've probably all, if you've been to the fair, you've seen they've started doing something on the north wall of the museum. So, that is great news. And they're also going to attack the boathouse, which has been on my list from the insurance guy for several years. When James first brought it to my attention, he said, you know, that needs, I said, oh, can you fix it? Oh, yeah.
But he didn't say when.
No, he never said when, but thank God, he's gonna do it now. Give you a copy of the August 31st Bar Harbor Capital Reserve accounts. And I've given you, what I received from Gartley Dorsey for East Shore Drive, a site plan, shoreline stabilization plan. And he has sent it to 3 contractors on the mainland. I have heard back from one, but I'm hoping to hear back. As you'll see, he's recommending what we need to do, have to do, is that first 155 feet to protect that roadway. But if it were all possible, he would like to see us do the next 100 feet, because that will have to be done at some point. Either you wait and budget for it for next year, or it would be cheaper to do it at the same time when everything is mobilized. So I've asked, because the price I received was just for this one section, but I've written him back and said, could you just give me a price, you know, to add that on, so we'll see.
What was the price for this section?
I don't really want to say it yet, because we don't want other, yeah. But,
Right.
yeah. So, but that's good news, and I did ask him how soon if they got the bid, how soon they could start, but he didn't answer me back on that. So you've got a handout from Dick DeGrasse stopped by today. I know he's not able to come tonight, but he stopped to drop off the, main power options.
On the Zoom.
Yeah, okay, I'm just reporting on what I've given out. And just to let you know, the town's big white truck is still at the garage in Rockland being worked on. They haven't yet discovered. They did some things to it, and then Jordy went over, they said it was ready, Jordy went over and took it for a drive, and it did the same thing, so he dragged the manager out to go for a ride with me, he said, oh. So, I'm hoping they will find the true cause of that. Sorry, and Fred will be meeting tomorrow to discuss Hurricane Lee preparations. So we'll keep you posted on that, anything that we need. Yeah.
I might skip down if you can.
I'm looking right now for someplace for 2 CMP crews to stay. I haven't looked for that yet, but.
Yeah, am I remembering correctly that Fred, every year at some point kind of goes over, I know he showed us that we had a management, emergency management plan, but I guess I'm wondering, do we have a time where we go over that so that we're familiar with what the plan is, how things are mobilized? Should there be reason to mobilize and how that takes place? I know Fred knows. I don't.
I'd love to tell you. I can look at it.
At some point,
I will talk with him about it. I don't think we generally do unless he's changing it or revising it,
Yeah,
but that's a good point.
well, I could just meet with him separately if I'm
Well,
the only one that.
I can mention that to him. I'm gonna be out of town tomorrow, so I'm gonna miss his meeting, but he'll let me know that I will. Cause I have a separate little sheet that we keep here for to go through emergencies and things to do, and
That might be what I need to see.
yeah.
This might be a good time to bring it up, and I don't know. John already left, he really just needs to hang out for the whole meetings. 2 people brought it to my attention today that they're still charging for parking over in Lincolnville. With hurricane prep, would it be possible to ask the ferry service not to charge for parking during an emergency thing?
Situation.
Yeah, that way, because they're wanting to park their cars over there in case they have to evacuate, they're being amply prepared.
but they don't have the accommodations in order to pay the $24 that it would take to leave it over there for 2 days. Will they
I can
waive it?
email John and have
Okay.
him, I'll let him email.
Or if you'd email Lexi even, the supervisor over there, because she's the one that does it.
Well, she probably couldn't make that decision, I wouldn't think, but.
I think she.
I'll
Because if
talk
she
to
doesn't
John.
go out and charge people, then she made the decision. But if we could get something about that, that way people know that on Friday, if they're parking their cars, then they're okay. Just as prep for it.
Yeah, when did he say that's parking stops over there?
End of September, I thought I heard.
Yeah. Oh, 'cause that's when the tickets go, so it's coincide with the rates.
Yeah,
Oh,
not sure.
yeah, that's, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll email him and I'll see her tomorrow.
Would that be for the rest of the month or just this weekend?
I'd be happy if they just did it for the weekend. That way people can feel like they're not getting kneecapped trying to be proactive.
Mhm.
If it goes for the rest of the month, I'm ecstatic. I'm super happy with through the weekend and emergency.
It's pretty reasonable to request.
No.
Anything else?
No,
Nothing for Janet?
Thank you for digging into the paint question I had.
oh.
While I believe that he believes that there's this reflective material, I feel like what I'm thinking of is still not what he's taught. I don't think there's ever been a time when the roads have looked the way that I think that they should.
Well,
I don't, but you can't, I mean, if that's what he's saying, it's what, you know, I'm not
I
gonna.
guess the
don't-
more often you do it is also, maybe some places do it more than once a year. I mean, maybe, you know, and maybe that's something we want to budget for. It's about $9,000 to do generally what we do.
Yeah.
But,
How many miles does that cover? 9,000?
if they do state road too, but state pays for that. But we're 14, and it's double line, some of it's double line, some of it's. I really don't know, I'd have to look at the bill, he might go by the foot, I don't know, how his measurement goes. But we haven't had them this year, because I usually try to wait till we pay and we didn't pay, so. Makes no sense. I've done it before, done it in the fall, and then people say, why'd you do that? Because it's gonna get all scratched off during the winter, it's snow pile.
Did they tell you, Pete, that they don't have reflective?
No, they told Janet that they do use reflective paint, that it already has this reflective material I'm thinking about.
The glass.
But what they currently have already been putting down, so which I believe that he said that, and he believes that they're doing that. But maybe it is just a frequency thing,
I'm sure.
but like, when I drove out the last time we first got painted and paved, I was like one of the first cars on them.
Yeah, I know, it's always
What
great.
the thing was, anyway. That's all. I appreciate the work.
Any other correspondence? All right, next up, under old business, we have, the main power options with Dick DeGrasse. And I understand, I think that this was put on this, agenda because, we thought that it would have been discussed at the last Energy Committee meeting. I understand it's on the agenda for the October Energy Committee meeting, and so it seems like maybe what we want to do is table this until after that Energy Committee meeting. But I see that Dick is here. I don't know, Dick, if you want, I know we have received your letter. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say ahead of coming back in October after the Energy Committee meets.
Am I on, Janet? Can you hear me, Janet?
Yes.
Good. I never know. Anyway, I hope that everybody got my piece on the main power options. After listening to John King for a moment, you know, we can do a lot for the ferry, but we've got to have a contract with a competitive supplier. And that might very well be, and I think it is at this point anyway, Maine Power Options. We need a contract with them, not only for the power today to go along and for cheaper power for the municipality and for the school, which is very important. But we can also turn to them and say, look, what can you do for us so that we can charge ferry batteries? So that the ferry battery system can be passed on by John and his people to the ferry designers, and we can have discussions on that issue. So that we have a major utility talking about charging the ferries. But we can't do that without a contract with that particular supplier. I remember doing this many times in Vermont when I was director of Vermont Public Power. We were always looking at rate increases, not rate reductions. And rate reductions were a no-brainer. You passed it the day you saw it. And I don't know why, frankly, why the Energy Committee postponed it again.
I understand that there's a lot on their agenda, and I want to make sure that we keep the discussion respectful. So, I mean, I think that everyone is interested in saving money, but going through the right process feels really important.
No, that's all, it's just like.
Well, I understand, and they had a lot on the plate. I listened to it last night, and there is a lot on the plate. I understand that, but it doesn't take much to vote this in so that the town can proceed with a contract with Maine Power Options. And once we get that, we can begin to resolve some of the other sideline issues, which are not necessarily savings right at the moment, but will be down the road, and that is the rate structure issues. And
Yeah.
particularly with the school.
No,
We could do that. It's simple enough to vote on it.
Yeah, and I spoke with Myra, ahead of this meeting, and it sounded like she had that as the major discussion item on the Energy Committee agenda in October, so I think, October 10th, so maybe, October 11th, then we can put this back on the agenda so that we can, move it forward as quickly as we can after the Energy Committee's had a chance to go through it.
Can I relate that to Maine Public Options? Not that we're going to succeed now. I'm not assuming anything. But I can assume a little bit, I suppose, that I know that Myra is in favor of saving money for the town. So I would expect that the vote will pass. But in any event, I'd like to pass it along.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense to let her know when the Energy Committee is gonna be meeting about it and when
Okay.
then the select board will be meeting the next day, so.
Okay, I'll go along with whatever the town and the Energy Committee want, of course. But I can work for you to do whatever is possible for the future. I'm concerned about the future of the town with having proper supply. And the supply we can work with. We can't work with special offer. With standard offer. I mean, it's just an impossibility, but we can work with Maine Power Options.
Thanks, Dick. That's very helpful, and I guess we've got a next date set up. So we'll talk to you soon.
Well, I'll rest until the November meeting of the Energy Committee unless I find something different.
I think October.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you. All right, no other old business, no new business that we have not already covered, no other business. Next up is to approve warrant number 6 for FY 24. Do I have a motion?
So,
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
No appointments tonight. And my only comment is hope that everyone stays safe and, as we think about our emergency responders, what we can do to help them as a community stay safe and appreciate everybody's effort. hopefully this weekend will be a bust.
Let's get some kind of living quarters for those power guys.
I know.
Yeah, that's a big ditto, what Shay just said, I thank in advance any of the people that go out there, like, remove trees and help people get food if they need it, everything else like that, it's an amazing community in that regard.
Take it.
No, just, no, I think I would probably listen to, remind folks about the school being an emergency shelter in worst case scenario, but I don't know the details of it. That's all. Just like how, I mean, who you contact to access it, I don't know.
I'm actually hoping, I'm gonna be at the meeting tomorrow at, it's a 10 a.m. meeting for the emergency preparedness and everything. Kate got invited and I told her that I wanted to tag along. And so she's letting me go, and I was like, I'm pulling select board power and I wanna go. Because I'm nosy and I wanna know what the plan is. Just a reminder, if anybody needs help, the transfer station, not the transfer station, the place across from it, the sporting club is the Up Island Warming Station Power Station. The ICC is the Mid Down Island warming power transfer station. We'll be talking with them about what the plan is, how to access things. I'm actually hoping that the meeting tomorrow will be able to put out more information. If we know that the ferry's not going to charge for parking, that way people can be prepared in the case of an evacuation or medical emergency that they have it. And we're gonna be more transparent with communications of what the plan is. And so that's what I'm pushing for tomorrow at the meeting,
As long as there's communication.
when we have communication. And so look for smoke signal, Eagle.
Does the sporting club have a generator?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question,
Good, I didn't know that, I hadn't
that's
heard.
great, that's good.
That is excellent.
They've had one for a while.
I hadn't heard, I mean, last couple that we had, they didn't, so it's come online.
Okay, no.
I was there that night.
At the meeting?
No, then like the power went out before Christmas and their generator did not kick on.
Okay, so I don't know that it runs and that it's a backup.
Well,
Okay.
that we need to know.
The question,
For sure.
the question
Do they have
was,
one?
do they have work?
They have one.
That's right. they
Anything
can
further,
sit
I don't know.
outside. Mert would, no, he doesn't go.
Any further comments?
The home game Saturday is probably gonna be canceled, but I did put out a post looking for anybody who's driving to the Eagles game tomorrow. It's at Point Lookout. Islanders, helping Islanders commute and get over and get back would probably be great. We need to make a lot of noise going against St. John's tomorrow. And it's soccer season. Woo.
Bill, you have the last word.
Everybody be safe and let's just hope it blows by us or that.
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
No,
Thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
Great. Hi. Thank you all.
Mert, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come here and see.
It has not come out.
Yeah, don't worry about this. We're doing it still.
In the works.
I've got some stuff in my office.
I don't, oh, the form, I don't think it's just the form, but I'll sign the form for you, yeah.
I didn't, yeah, it is all permitted.
Stay safe.